So you're selling a house in California? Get ready for, well, a mountain of paperwork. But there's one stack of documents that can literally make or break your sale, and even land you in court if you get it wrong. I'm talking about seller disclosures. In this explainer, we're going to give you a step-by-step guide to conquering that mountain, and more importantly, protecting yourself. All right, let's just dive right in.
If the answer is yes, then you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break down what you need to do, what you really need to watch out for, and how to use these forms to protect yourself every single step of the way.
And let's be super clear about the stakes here. This is not just about checking a bunch of boxes on a form. No way. Getting your disclosures right, being thorough, that is your single best defense against a buyer coming back at you with a lawsuit later on. Seriously, think of it as your legal armor.
To get you there, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the legal stuff, then we'll break down the key forms you'll actually be filling out yourself. After that, we'll get into a practical guide to honesty, clarify what you don't have to worry about, and then wrap it all up with the single most important rule to remember through all of this.
So let's kick things off with the legal concept that's really at the heart of all this. See, in California, sellers have what's called an affirmative duty to disclose. It sounds like a fancy term, right? But what does it actually mean you have to disclose?
It really all boils down to this one term, a material fact. So what is that? Well, it's basically any piece of information that a reasonable buyer would find important when they're deciding, hey, do I want to buy this house, or how much am I willing to pay for it? We're talking about things like leaky roofs, maybe some noisy neighbors, past repairs, you name it. If you know about it and it could sway a buyer's decision, well, that's a material fact.
Okay, so you've got all these material facts rattling around in your head. How do you get them onto paper in a way that's legally sound? Well, that's where two key forms come in, and you, the seller, are going to be in the driver's seat for both of them.
The best way to think about these two forms is like a team. First up, you've got the transfer disclosure statement. Everyone calls it the TDS. This is kind of your wide-angle lens, right? It captures the big picture, asks about the general condition of your property, any significant defects. But then you've got the seller property questionnaire, or SPQ. And this is your zoom lens. The SPQ is where you get into all the nitty-gritty details. We're talking specific repairs, neighborhood issues, all that background info.
And that zoom lens, the SPQ, is absolutely crucial because it's designed to catch important stuff that the broader TDS might miss. For instance, it specifically asks about a death on the property within the last 3 years, which is a required disclosure. It also dives into things like non-compliant plumbing, any legal matters you might know about, or past disputes you've had with your homeowners association. All right, so knowing what forms to fill out is half the battle. But knowing how to fill them out with the right mindset, well, that's the other and frankly more critical half.
This quote from the California Association of Realtors Advisory just says it all. If you find yourself pausing, wondering if you should mention something because you're worried it might scare a buyer off, that hesitation right there is your bright flashing sign that you absolutely have to disclose it.
Okay, let's get practical and talk about the common mistakes people make. First big one, don't leave questions blank. If you really don't know the answer, just write unknown. See, a blank space can make it look like you're trying to hide something. Number two, and this is huge, don't guess, ever. Only state what you actually truly know. Also, you gotta banish vague words from your vocabulary, like minor leak. That means nothing. What's minor to you could be a total deal breaker for a buyer. And last but not least, do not assume permits were pulled for past work unless you've got the paperwork right there in your hand to prove it.
Now on the flip side, here's how to do it right. Be factual. Be specific. Instead of roof leak, you write, roof leak in the northeast corner of the garage during heavy rains in winter 2022. It was repaired by XYZ Roofing in March 2022. If you check yes to anything, you got to explain the who, what, where, and when. And this is so important. Disclose issues even if you've already fixed them. Why? Because the history of your home is a story, and repairs are just part of that story. Disclosing them builds trust. It shows you've got nothing to hide.
Okay, I know that sounds like a huge weight on your shoulders, and it is. But here's the good news. You are not responsible for everything. Your escrow and title team, they're going to order several key third-party reports on your behalf.
First up is the Natural Hazard Disclosure Report, or the NHD for short. This is put together by a specialized company that basically maps your property against all the state-designated hazard zones for things like wildfires, floods, and earthquakes.
So let me be crystal clear here. This is not your homework. Escrow orders this report for you. Your only job is to look it over for accuracy when it comes in and then pass it along to the buyer. Simple as that.
The other really key report that escrow handles is the preliminary title report. You'll hear people call it the prelim. This thing is like a deep dive into the property's legal DNA. It confirms who legally owns the place, and it uncovers any liens or loans or easements on the record that could affect the title.
And just like that NHD report, this is another huge piece of the puzzle that you don't have to put together yourself. Escrow gets it done.
Pew! We've covered the what, the how, and the who. So now let's get to the final, and I think the most crucial piece of advice. If you forget everything else from this whole explainer, please remember this one guiding principle. With all these forms and facts and legal duties swirling around your head, what is the single simple idea that should guide every single answer you give?
This is it. This is the golden rule. If you are ever, for 1 second, standing there with that pen in your hand wondering, should I mention that one time the dishwasher flooded? Or what about that ongoing argument with my neighbor about their dog? The answer is always yes. A resounding yes. When in doubt, disclose it. It's truly the simplest, clearest, and most powerful way to protect yourself and just have a successful, drama-free sale.